It's just.
Okay. Okay, let's call this meeting to order. Ms. Danielle, you'll do roll call for us, please.
And technically, according to our committee requirements, we don't have a quorum, so we can't vote on these items as though the action items for approval, but we can absolutely bring them to this committee in a public manner to present them so that there's public knowledge of the purpose of these items and what Leona is wanting to present. So, does that make sense? Okay, roll call. Veronica Cordova is absent at this moment. Rustin Self is absent. Mike Miller is absent. Sarah Stubbs.
Here.
Okay. Mike Davidson,
Here.
Chris Wood,
Here.
and Doug Stone absent. So we have 3 out of the 7, but we at least have enough to listen to them.
Okay, well, the next item we will have on our next agenda for approval, which is the approval of the minutes. Okay, and then moving on to the presentation, the first part will be our final budget. Our fiscal year 2027 final budget. So first of all, thank you, Ms. Stubbs, for joining us. I was sharing earlier that this budget has been presented about 2 or 3 times. So not new to a lot of us. I didn't make any changes on the revenue or expenditures. Some rollovers in our capital projects and such will be captured through budget adjustments in our first quarter in our next fiscal year. Now, the items that I did update from our approved preliminary budget is the cash column and the investments to reflect our June 30th ending balance. And then those items, those amounts will also be reflected in our final budget as beginning balances. So I put together just a little synopsis of our fiscal year 2027 budget. If you can pull up the slide, please. Thank you. So 2027 budget, bottom line. Our fiscal year 2027 budget is in a stronger financial position than our fiscal year 2026. Next slide. So how is this budget better? We have higher revenues to include GRT taxes and grants. Our general fund reserves are growing. Improved cash positions and key funds demonstrates a stronger fiscal capacity and an overall improved financial stability. So I want to take a time just to say, first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity, the trust, the space that I've needed to, when I came on about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, speaking with previous mayor, Mr. Miller. He gave me the truth right off the bat, that the finances were in a mess, that the budget that they had submitted was the exact same as the previous budget. Staff changes, a lot of that contributed to the finances that the city was in at the time. So I knew I would be coming into a challenge, and that's what I wanted, is the challenge. So we've definitely come a long ways just in that small span, and we continue to grow and we continue to learn and continue to improve our financial stability. Okay, next slide. As I was kind of looking at some previous fiscal years from 24, I was looking at the beginning cash balance in our general fund, and we have grown that by over 2.2 million. Next slide. In our water enterprise, which is one of our key funds, we've grown over 3.1 million in that fund. Okay, next slide. So this is just the budget at a glance, our fiscal year 2026 versus 2027. You can see our total revenues in our budget for our fiscal year 2027. Estimating just a little over 30 million, and then in expenditures, 36 million. Now you can probably understand a little bit of the gap there, the 30 million to the 36. Next slide. So this gap is supported by available cash accumulated in prior fiscal years and is primarily associated with one-time project investments and local match requirements. It does not necessarily reflect an imbalance between recurring revenues and ongoing expenditures. So for example, we did receive the funds from our TPF funding in fiscal year 2026, and that was about 3 million in itself. Okay, next slide. And this I'm just sharing, we're not going to go over it. The next two slides is just sharing the detail. In fact, I believe Mr. Rackler had requested a comparison of our budgets, what fiscal year looked like, each line item, and then fiscal year 27. So that's what that is. That's the information. I will and can email the slides so you have this information to compare. Okay.
That's what I was looking for.
Yes. Yeah, so I'll definitely share that so you have that information. And then all of our funds that we manage are listed there for you. A couple of them are integrated together, so I can always provide more details if I need to on that. Okay. That is the end as far as our budget presentation. I'll stand for any questions. Okay, none? Let's move on. If you don't mind pulling up the FY26 quarterly Q4 budget recap. Yes. Hold on. Yep, that one's it. Okay, so this is also in your packet. This is the ending balances for our fiscal year 2026. Overall, the city closed FY26 in a strong financial position. Total revenues were approximately 32 million, while expenditures totaled approximately 30.7 million, resulting in a positive year-end financial performance. The city ended the fiscal year with approximately 36.9 million in total cash and investments, and with an adjusted balance of approximately 35.9 million across all of the funds. The general fund remained stable and it ended the year with an adjusted balance of approximately 5.6 million, providing the city with a solid reserve position to support our ongoing operations and future needs. Several enterprise and infrastructure related funds also maintained healthy balances, including the Water Enterprise Fund, our Utility Reserve Fund, our Municipal Street Fund, positioning the city to continue investing in our critical infrastructure improvements. And we have a lot of projects that will be going on in this coming fiscal year that will roll over into our FY27. For example, our South Avenue K, that is well under the works and under construction. And we're super excited, and that's one of our big projects. I will stand for any questions on this quarterly report.
Okay.
We'll move on to our budget adjustments. Mr. Rackler would be so happy that there's not a full page of so many budget adjustments. We did part one a while back. quarter four, part one budget adjustments. This is part two of quarter adjustments to close our year and ensuring that nothing is over budget in our funds. So we just have a couple, I'll touch on some of them. Some of them are just some grants we received real close to the end of the year. But the most significant you'll see is a transfer out from general fund to our capital projects. And that's to cover a cash deficit in that fund because we submitted for reimbursement in June and awaiting reimbursements from the state. So once we receive that money back from the state, then we'll be able to transfer it back into our general fund. And then a couple of adjustments to our airport enterprise, increasing the revenue in the fuel sales, and then also same amount, increasing the expenditure for the purchase of the fuel. So I'll stand for any questions. Okay.
I'd like to make a comment on this. Ms. Rivera and I were going through this in the last couple of days. The fact that there's 12 line items on there is amazing. And the story behind 12 line items for anybody who's interested really of the lack of additional line items. What this is starting to tell us, or it's indicative of, is that the city is getting to a point where it's not having to move a bunch of money around to cover things temporarily, then uncover it and recover it and uncover it. So budget adjustments oftentimes when you're kind of out of control a little bit, and that's the term we use right now. If you move money all over to cover what you need to cover at the time, you cover it again. The fact that we're down, closing out a year and we're at 12 line items now, consider the fact that this is the second part of this, but the city's starting to streamline and become more efficient.
This is a beginning of a stabilization of our finances.
100%. You're starting to see a smoothing of the financial operations to where each line item now is meaningful. It's kind of the end of that line item story, except in a few cases where you'll never get away from reimbursements. The reimbursable will have two line item adjustments. One to pay out the general fund money or whatever you have to cover it. That's how you do business. And then money will come in on the reimbursables, and then there'll be another adjustment to put it back where it belongs. You'll always see those. But this is a very interesting, but also good story, indicative of a healthier financial position for the city.
At the end of the year, June 30th, how much AR were you waiting on to come in total?
A little over 1 million.
We were pretty close to that too.
Yeah, and that's specifically 2 grants that we had.
Mhm.
And fun's a really good story. Closing out the year on a positive balance, even if it's a nickel.
Mhm.
We all have to remember we started 2026 over $1 million upside down. So we closed at excess and I kind of wrong stuff. Yeah. So we were about 1.4, I think, upside down with a letter from finance authority saying general fund, we're upside down 1.4, be careful. We closed that gap and then into a positive balance. So that's it.
So we wound up in a positive balance. Last I knew, we were 700,000, went from 1.4 upside down to 700,000 upside down, and now it's been closed out in a positive balance.
No, well, not exactly, Mayor. There's 2 stories.
Okay.
So we start off FY26 with a gap of 1.4, and we close that gap. Now, pro forma, our expected expenditures exceed for 27. Our expected expenditures exceed what it looks like on paper for general fund by 700,000.
Gotcha.
So idealistically, we closed the gap by 500,000. We covered all our expenses in FY26. But we're telling DFA, hey, we're going to spend this much, but these are our revenues. But with the same kind of leadership, management, and execution of finances, we'll easily cover the 700,000 and kind of
That's awesome.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I definitely agree and feel we're with the management, with the close monitoring, working with department heads. They get their budget monthly, they review it, and they can know and see what is maybe some red flags, where some concerns, where are these expenditures, why is this one higher this month and such. So it's been great. Hi, Mr. Stone. Thank you for joining us right at the end. You're right in time for any discussion items.
If we could move this to 9, I could make it on time.
We will change the time. And possibly the date. We are actually looking, we discussed about that a while ago, Christine and I, about scheduling some of these already in advance and trying to meet quarterly, so that we can at least review quarter financial reports, and anything else city may have. So
That'd be helpful.
we will get those on the calendar with plenty of time for you to have it on your schedule. Yeah, thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other discussion items? And Mr. Stone, just a little recap, we went over our final budget. I know I think you were here for the preliminary presentation. We went over that budget in Finance Committee and then also in Council. I didn't make any changes to the revenues and expenditures. Those remain the same. However, there are changes to the ending cash balances and then the investments. Okay.
Say that last sentence again. I'm sorry. I'm getting older. My hearing's.
So we didn't make any changes to the expenditures and the revenues budgeted from the preliminary budget. The only changes were in the cash and investments column.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, that concludes our Finance Review Committee presentations. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. The end. Meeting adjourned. Adjournment.
My Lord, that's the fastest meeting I've ever been at.
I made the last 2 minutes.
That is very odd for me.
They're not like this, Sarah.
Oh, I understand
On
that.
the presentation.